Hi everyone! It is Thursday evening. Ooh, look at that, 8:27. I'm early. Yay! So things got a little crazy for me this week, and I had wanted to do the ramps, and it's just going to be a lot easier for me to do this as a live stream. I'm going to show you how to do two painting techniques for these ramps. The first one is a general terrain technique. This means that it will go with your cavern, your forest, or any outdoor type of terrain because of the color blends that I used on that one. And the other one I'm going to show you is ice. We do have an ice terrain that we just haven't tapped into quite yet. And I have some samples here for you to see. So this is the ice one. So I'll be showing you how I do this, but on the ramp. And then here is my general terrain one, as I like to call it. You can kind of see it has a different blending of colors. It's grays and browns and greens. And because of that, it starts working with a few different types of terrain things that we have at home, including our cavern pieces and our forest pieces. So this gives the ramp a little bit more flexibility in terms of what it's going to work with. And I'm excited to show you how all this came together. So hello there. I do have the chat window open so I can see what you're saying, what you're talking about, what you're asking. If at any point you have a question along the way, use the chat feature. I will definitely try and keep up with that one. And I am hoping that the sound is coming through. I'm getting the nice little sound bars letting me know that it is happening, on my end at least. If it's not, please let me know. So I'm gonna get started. I just need to shift the camera down a level so you can see what's going on. And let's have fun with it. All right, here we go, little ride. All right, so here are the two pieces again. And you can kind of see this ice piece has a fun little sheen and sparkle to it just to make it look a little bit more ice-like. So I'm excited to show you how I went about doing that one. And then the other one, I'll definitely show you how it gets this sort of generic, not generic, but a look that makes it work with definitely a lot of other things. So that's one of those features that I'm going to get on top of. Let me just fix something here window-wise so I can see something a little bit better. All right, so what I'm going to start with first is, let me get the ramp, which one do I want? Okay, this is the ramp I'm going to do in the general terrain coloring. And what I've started doing, and I know everyone likes to basically black out their terrain bits, but what I found really helpful is actually using, it's a blend of Mod Podge and dark brown and black. And what I find this does for me is it makes it so that it's not completely blacking everything out, but it gives it a darker tone, and I'm not pulling up from the black as much. It's deeper tones, but without it being totally black. So what I'm going to do first with this one is just paint this guy up. I do like to add texture ahead of time, and I'm sure you've seen this with other people, but we have this great wire brush that does the job here. So I'm going to use that to get things going. And then what I like to do is this is good for aggression. What I'll do is I'll like feed into it first just to get some deeper rivets, because those will definitely show up. And then fun little pulling action here and there. And how much texture you want to add to it is totally your call. That's personal preference in my book. And again, this is just showing you how I go about doing stuff. It's not something where you have to absolutely must do it the exact same way. What I like to think is that this kind of gives you a means of going with it and seeing what happens with it. So let me see here. All right, there it is. So I'm going to start getting this painted up. Fix something over here again. It's all by my lonesomeness. Here we go. All right, good. We are live. We are live and streaming. That's good. All right, so what I'm going to do here is just basically put on a coat. I'm going to show you the difference when I'm finished with this. You can kind of see the difference by adding in that little bit of the darker brown. And in terms of parts, it's pretty much equal parts of the Mod Podge and the black and the dark brown. You know, there's different browns you could use for the dark level, so you just want to make sure it's as dark as possible. And then that way we can get it going. So far, nothing on the live chat yet. Is anyone out there? Can anybody hear me? Now, because this is going to be more for like outdoor terrain, I do want to make sure to get all of this green, seafoam green I should say, covered up decently because you don't want it peeking through. That's the one thing with these ramps, they do kind of teeter-totter on you. So when it comes to painting, what I find helps is keeping your finger down on the base and work from top to bottom. It just helps out with keeping it from going seesaw on you. Alright, what I'm going to do is, before I get too far in the front, I'm also going to paint up the back. What you do want to make sure you get, and obviously the top part up here. Restrict something. Okay. There we go. Oh, wait, one more thing. So yes, this week that was supposed to be a little bit more quiet. Actually got kind of crazy really fast for different reasons. There was stuff going on with the rescue, and then crochet season has definitely started. I've got a few commissions coming in already, and that's going to be a fun little balancing act, making sure to get those done, because usually it's Christmas orders that start coming in. Hi, Mike. Ooh, yay! Okay. Yeah, ever since that one night where I discovered that little hidden gem of how they hide the sound on me, I think I've got that figured out. Knock wood. What are you going to play on Saturday, Mike? Anything cool? David's actually off right now at work. They're doing some board game play, and what did he say it was? Let me check. He says they're playing Cthulhu Wars. That actually sounds pretty cool. Alright, we're getting there. And again, it helps to work towards the bottom where the weight is. That way it gives you a little bit of a grip first of all, and then it's not so awkward to paint as you get closer to the bottom. And you don't have to make it a super thick layer, but you do want to make sure that lovely shade of green, in this case, is fully covered. But yeah, so it was, I want to say it was Monday evening, and there is a woman who does these great paint nights at a historical building in town, and she also has a new storefront in the middle of town. And our town has two very local breweries, so they're doing an Oktoberfest this coming weekend, and she shot me a message and asked if I'd be interested in being one of the vendors at her store for a little impromptu craft fair. So of course I was all about doing that because, I don't know, the Oktoberfest vibe, it's going to be fun to catch and just talk and interact with people. Alright, so I have this painted up. Get some interesting marks on my fingers. but it's not a true black. And what I found is that mixing in that brown, for me, visually, I like the different bit of depth it gives. But you know, if you want to do it starting with just a straight black, go for it. I just find this kind of gives it not as deep and dark, so it can pull up different colors as they go along. All right, so Mike is doing a homebrew. Oh, homebrews are the best. Oh, that sounds fun. You're gonna fight skeletons, necromancer, and a flaming skull. Ooh, flaming skull. How'd you pull that one off? Did you go like a tea light and a skull type of thing? That sounds like fun. My kids would be all over that. All right, so that is my prep work for round 1. And I'm gonna move this guy out of the way carefully. Put on my little hidey hole desk here. Okay, so the next piece I'm gonna start painting up once I cap this little dude. But yeah, I keep my little mixes in these jars so that they're ready to go whenever I need to use them. Alright, so now we're gonna move on to, hang on, that washer's falling out the bottom, we'll fix that later. If you hear a thunk, I have Hemingway, he's kind of bopping around playing Curious Cat as usual. I swear he's learned laptop means mommy's talking to someone and it's not him, so now he wants attention. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is just rinse my brush before I forget. Okay, so for ice, I kind of go about things a little bit differently beyond just texturing. I also don't put as many divots in. What I like to do is I like to drag this brush across it just to get those nice long streaks in. You can see right there. And I find that gives it a really neat effect towards the end. And you can vary direction and all that jazz. A couple on the side. But then here's the thing that I like doing. And now, the funny thing is my father is a chemical engineer, and he used to work for a company, get down Hemingway, that worked with acetone all the time. So this stuff I have had fun using for many, many years. And I think it was like at the age of 7 I learned that this stuff helps get super glue off of you for the strangest of reasons. Just a giant skull mic. Oh, paint flames on it? That could be cool looking. So what I do for the ice, because I actually like this color, comes in handy, I feel, in the end finish. So I just take a Q-tip, and as we all know, and as is discussed many, many times, and as Jeremy has explained many, many, many times, and I give him so much credit for that, acetone will melt this, okay? It's gonna basically make it start disintegrating, and I want to use that to my advantage right now because I want to get sort of deeper parts of a glacier is how I like to treat these pieces. So I'm gonna take it and just kind of pick out a couple zones where I want to put some divots into here, because then it also becomes a playability thing where you'll have your characters moving up, and if you have these little potholes of deeper ice, it's something where they have to jump over or figure out how to get around it, that type of thing. Alright, so I'm going to first start up here, and a little bit can go a long way, so do like a test droplet. Okay, you can see that wet spot right there. That's where I'm starting this off. I'm just going to see how far it goes. And I'm going to mark off, I think, like 3 little zones where I want this to happen. It's also pretty cool if you put it towards the edges, because then it sort of creates, like I said, a deeper divot into it. Just to make it tricky, and it's one of those things where, you know, you're planning on taking your character across a nice smooth transition, and not so much. Now the thing is, be patient with this. Don't oversaturate it, because as you can see, this is just from a couple dabs with a toothpick, or not toothpick, oh god, a couple dabs with a Q-tip or a cotton swab for the more generic term. And you can see it's already starting to do things here, especially that section right there. That's already loving it. Alright, so I'm actually going to go back up to the top one and kind of make it a little bit bigger. Alright, so you're going to have stairs and a table. That's going to be fun, Mike. Sounds like a good one. Yeah, with soccer season starting up, it's getting tricky for us to actually play right now, I gotta say. But, yeah, we'll get to it, hopefully. This weekend's pretty much demolished because we have 2 soccer games and I have a 2-day event, craft fair, happening. So, yeah, I don't think we're gonna have time for that one, unfortunately. Okay. So, yeah, I just kind of go back and I just keep kind of patting on, and you can see it starts eating away. And again, you don't want to go too crazy before it chews all the way through on you, and that can happen. That is for sure. And I also, reason why I do this before painting it is because I want to see how deep it's going to get, and I can just glide the brush over it. Hey Anne, it's okay. I started a little early too, so that was unexpected on my part. I thought for sure I'd be going until, you know, the very bitter end of things. All right, I think I'm actually going to take this one kind of down the side. That's the fun thing I like doing, because you can see it's starting to create like this nice little hole there. So yeah, I'm going to work this into the side just a little more. And that's definitely going to become a nice little playable, only so many people can get by at once feature. Alright, great. And I will go in with my finger and kind of encourage things to melt in a little bit more. You can also blow on it a little bit. Yeah, I figured you lost track of time. Alright, cool. So yeah, you can see this just totally... See? I can get my finger in there, but now it's become this thing that isn't just a quick, easy transition over, so I find this to be a fun little feature to do when you want to make things a little bit more challenging for your players. And they have to think outside the box a little bit. But yeah, I like how it starts bringing it down the sides and everything. Hi, Esmeralda! You just ruined a piece, Anne, by going crazy with acetone. A little bit goes a very long way. Except for when you're using gel nail polish for some reason. I don't know why, but those suckers need a cotton ball each to get that stuff off your nails. But hey, it sticks around for a little bit longer, right? Yay, you got out of work, Esmeralda. That's awesome. Was it a busy day or a boring day? It's always hard to figure out which is worse. Okay, so now that I have this melted where I want with the acetone, and I like this because it looks a lot like when you see glaciers, if anyone's ever had the experience of that. I did when I did a, this is me, I did a spring trip to Alaska one year in college. But I got to see some really cool glaciers and definitely use those photos for my ice escapes. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I do not black out my ice. I just don't do that. What I do is I will use, come on, play nice. I use this graphite from CraftSmart. There we go. Now you like me. Oh, and that's not fun. I experienced that once, knocking over a cap full of that stuff, and it ate away at the finish of something, and not a good day. So what I'll do is I'll take the graphite, and then I take the Mod Podge, equal parts of this. And since I'm just doing this one piece, I'm not going to mix up a huge batch, because it's not really necessary. I'll just go in and mix it up. But yeah, because this is ice, I don't want to take it all the way down to black. I do want to have some shadowing, which you will see in natural ice, which is why I go for this gray instead. And I also don't go too crazy with putting really thick coats onto this, because this green definitely comes into play, there we go, when you're creating the different tones you'll see in the ice. End of the month quarter, those are always fun. Yeah, I don't want to be doing that stuff anymore, although I'm gonna have to, at the end of this month, get ready for my quarter for the crochet stuff. Okay, so same thing, I start from the top and work my way down to the bottom. But in this case, you don't have to get so crazed about making sure every little bit is covered. In fact, it's kind of cool if you leave that green sticking out, or at least streaky. See, you can see a little bit of that green under there. Well, let's see here. I have 100% acetone over here. And this stuff eats through things quickly. You can get other nail polishes and they have different ratios of how much is in there, that's for sure. And if you use the weaker ones, it gives you a little bit more playtime. But as you can see, I'm kind of keeping it a little bit streaky through here, not super thick. Not at all. Let me get the bottom here. So yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to get the ice painted up with its first coat, and then I'm going to move back to doing the general terrain piece, so you can see this color combination I use on it so that it kind of works with the forest, the caverns. It even looked pretty decent up next to one of the castle pieces that we have downstairs that I double checked with, and it's because of the color blends I put in. You know, a lot of what we do with our terrains is we want to have it, you can see what I mean by the streaking. We want to have it so a lot of our pieces are modular and they can be used with different things, so we try not to, you know, put ourselves into the hole of this piece is exactly for this. I mean, granted, yes, we have a few pieces that are like that, but just in general, try and beef up the terrain bits by using things that can get more than one function out of their creation. And it just kind of saves you some sanity too, so you're not making stuff all the time, which I know Scotty definitely had that great video about. Hey, Wylock, how you doing? Hey, did you get that nice temperature drop? It has been like summer for the past 4 days, and all of a sudden we had this gorgeous breeze and actually fall-like weather, which was much, much needed. And not that I'm trying to rush into winter or anything, but kind of looking forward to the cold weather to get rid of all this crap that's floating around schools already. My youngest already had to stay home last Friday. I could not believe it. It was one of those, like, are you kidding me? You've been at school for like a week, if that. Wylock, we watched your latest video the other night, and oh my gosh, loved the light effects. And I'm cracking up because those pieces from like the Wendy's kids meals, yeah, we've got so many of those. Oh God, you're in Hotlanta? Yeesh. So you're kind of stuck in the land of humid. And it's too cold for you. What's too cold? Granted, there is such a thing as too cold, but I always love to see what everyone's definitions of too cold is. Alright, still going through, doing the streaking. And remember, hold at the bottom base. It makes it so much easier for painting. And actually, the reason why I picked this one for the ice is you can see there's some cracking here. I want to use that just for like little ice cracks, and it splits a little bit. They are pretty awesome. The boys, we've actually collected those little doodahs. What are they even called? Do they have an actual name? They've gotten so many of those kids' meals with those pieces in them. They're like building all these crazy things now that are like, you know, almost 3 feet high, some of them. But I gotta say, out of all the kids' toys they can get in those meals, those are probably the most practical. But it was very cool seeing them used in a very different way. That was fun. Anything under 79 is too cold for you, Anne? Oh, no, 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 no. You have 5 or 6 kits? I think we're easily up to 30. From all the road trips we do out to see our respective parents, because none of them live in the same state we do. Oh my God. I'm still finding them tucked away under the driver's seat and the front passenger seat of my car from the last trip. It's pretty funny. What kind of, I just use whatever colors speak to me when I go out to buy them. Right now I am using CraftSmart's Graphite, not granite, Graphite. I like the tone of the gray that this one has. It doesn't get that brownish gray going. It stays more to a true gray without shifting to green, shifting to brown, or shifting to yellow, which many grays can do. Which is why I grab this guy more often than not. And as for the other colors I'll be bringing in, a lot of them have to do just with the fact they carry the tones that I want for the color blend I want to get out of everything. That's really what drives my color selection. And since we're budget friendly, we definitely like to get the ones that you can just snag for a reasonable cost. You know, those nice acrylics. Okay, so got this guy all prepped and ready to go, but as you can see, it's streaky. It's not a perfectly true and thick coat, which is okay by me. And you can see on the back too. All right, so this dude's gonna dry now. And yes, I call inanimate objects dudes. It's just my thing. And let me go back to general terrain. All right, pretty much done with the brush, but I'm still gonna get this sucker rinsed off. All right, now, what I am gonna pull out to use is my cosmetic wedge. And this will give you guys a chance to see how I use those. And I did do that quick little blip of a video a while back, and these are it. So if you haven't seen these yet, or you haven't seen the video, they're latex sponges. They're actually nice and firm. Find them in the makeup aisle, and yes, they are very smooth of a cut right now. However, what I do is I will rip off the bottom to give it some texture to be more sponge-like. But what I find is that this blends the paints beautifully, which makes sense because it's technically for blending liquid makeup onto your face. But for some reason, not my face, because my face does not like these. But I'll just kind of go through and pick things off. So as you can see now, it has a texture to it. So yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend taking this straight from the packaging using the flatter surface. You're gonna get a whole bunch of rectangles, and that's about it. By doing this ripping it apart technique, you get a texture, and it just does a great job blending. If you want, you can also wet this down, and then that way you're not gonna be using up nearly as much paint. So that's definitely something I recommend doing. I'm just gonna do a quick dab into my water over here. The highlighting and contouring. Oh God, with makeup? Is that what you mean, Anne? Highlighting and contouring. Gentlemen, you do not know the struggle, and if you do, more power to you. I can do it. It's just such work. I don't know. It's just not my thing. I mean, it's like if you're getting ready to go to a wedding or whatever, sure, I'll go to that extent, but you know, the fact that I'm super pale, highlights tend to look like contouring anyway half the time. So yeah, I don't know. I'll do it every so often, but not all the time. Okay, so I'm switching over to Apple Barrel's Pewter Gray. Yeah, focus. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this darker gray and work my way up. Let me get rid of the paint so I don't forget about that one. Work my way up from this one to all these other colors. And I am going to, at the end of this live stream, post a quick little video, and there's going to be pictures of all the paints I've used for each of them and the supplies. Why you gotta hate on rectangles, Mike? It's not that I hate on rectangles. It just may not look the best if you're trying to get sort of a natural texture. Although I really should try and see how that would work for like an interior floor. Like would that give, that might give more of like a marble effect. Ooh, I'm getting low on the bottle here. All right. Pewter has to stay upside down now. So what I do is, I'll show you the technique here. So what I do is I will take my brush, not my brush, my sponge, and just dab at it. You don't want this super saturated, just like that, okay? And you can see it doesn't pull up all the way into the sponge because I have that water layer in there. Shapist. What's your favorite shape? That's like the first kindergarten question, isn't it? What's your favorite shape, boys and girls? All right. Now I will say with the ramps, it does get a little tricky, so you may find you have to pick it up and hold it. Otherwise, you do want to bounce a little bit back and forth on you. But as you can see, this just starts blending in the colors right from the word go, and I love it. I find it's a lot faster, and then as we get closer to the end of this drawing, I will show you how this little lovely also turns into your highlighting dry brush technique at the same time. It really is one of those fun 2-in-1 deals, which is why I've gravitated more towards using this than other things now. But yeah, it gives a nice little distribution of the colors here. Oop, let me get up here before I forget. There we go. I don't know if I mentioned it, but if you are looking for these things, they tend to be in the makeup section. Well, of course. Yep, it's a makeup sponge, cosmetic wedge. I wouldn't recommend a beauty blender because those are a little bit more dense, and because of their roundness, not quite as versatile, I find. All shapes are beautiful. Yes, all shapes are beautiful. But yeah, the cosmetic wedges, I'm, you know, a huge fan and advocate, I guess, of using because of how quickly it just works on to getting these things. And because it has this tapered end at the top, it's a heck of a lot easier to handle too and manipulate it. Alright, here we go. Triangles. Triangles are the best. Here we go. How are you doing, Jamie? You got it figured out? See, I can't speak and sponge at the same time. So what am I doing? Yeah, I got a couple things in my arsenal that I guess weren't as common knowledge as I thought, so I'm happy to share them with everyone. I think the floral wrap and the florist wire was one of them, but oh my god, boy did I use that stuff. Okay. Yeah, see, I like natural sponges and everything, but what I find is, for some reason for me, these just work out a lot better. Okay, so this is with that pewter gray on. And because of the nature of this, you don't have to wait between every single layer and coat. I am going to just quickly rinse my sponge a little bit though. Otherwise that's where things start getting muddied. Okay, good. Glad you figured out the live stream, Jamie. You found us! Yeah, the ramps were... David is a computer engineer and he will muddle things over and tinker and think and come up with these crazy ideas that actually work out. And eventually, when he has time to work on it and get it finished, there's this thing he's created that it's pretty freaking sweet. So yes, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tease here by not explaining what it is, but he's hoping to put it to use as a one-shot deal, and it turns out there is a local convention in our area in the summertime, June I think it was, or July, in Morristown, and he wants to try and do a one-shot game at this place, this convention I should say, and he's created this incredible piece. Free kitty hair? Yeah, cat hair. I can't get away from that stuff. Oh, it's okay, you're not late. You're just fashionably on time. Man, I'm gonna have to make a run at the paint store. Oh, my paints are running out. Good thing I'm only planning on doing a couple pieces tonight. Eesh. Alright, so this was... Yeah, it's a chocolate brown, that's why. This is CraftSmart's chocolate brown. Pay attention to this. Yeah, it doesn't want to focus on it, but that's the next color I'm gonna dip into. This video is really ramping up. Good one, Jamie. You're so punny! I love puns. My neighbor and I will send each other puns on Facebook. Okay, so same thing. Like I said, I don't really wait between coats on this. work from top to bottom with these ramps. Obviously, if you're not doing a ramp, it doesn't matter. Do whatever's most comfortable to you. But because of how these things are balanced, it helps to be able to work where there's a better balancing over here. Alright, there we go. Now I can just do the fingers at the bottom trick. Obviously, you don't want to go too hard against it because you could snap it, I suppose, but just a little bit of a blotting through. You're anything but fashionable, Lunar. Are you ever going to reveal your full name? That would be interesting. No, I get it. The incognito mode. It's all good. Now, let me get the back. Don't forget about the back, because remember, this does get seen on the table because it becomes a playable zone when you have two bumped up next to each other. Your players can actually go underneath and use it as a tactical zone. And if anyone wants to know where the background music is coming from, well, literally it's coming from, you know, my tablet underneath the table. But these are a pair of brothers. I use them all the time, because they're great, and they allow people to use their music. Just give them credit in either your description or, you know, at the end of your video, that type of thing. But they have a fantastic variety, so check it out in the description. And find yourself some new sources of music. Let's see, what's going on, Mike? Trying to apply while the paint is still wet. Oh yeah, no, I totally like using the wet method. I know I've mentioned it before, my mom was an interior decorator, so it was the era of sponge painting walls that was ridiculously popular, and yeah, definitely you don't want to have all your paint colors drying on you because you can blend them a lot better. And especially if you want to try and get like a marble effect, you want those paints to be wet. Well, maybe I'll catch your name during one of those things then. John got called to work. He sent me a message this afternoon, so he's not going to be able to make it. So, oh well, hopefully another time. However, he did help me out with some ideas for personal projects, which I don't know if I'll share on here, but I have some plans in the works for Christmas gifts. And he was quite informative. Okay, so that takes care of the chocolate brown. And as you can see, we're starting to get some layering of tones here. You have the deeper dark coating, I should say, the graphite coming through, and then the brown. And then, let's see, okay, I'm going to move over to CraftSmart's olive green. This is another color I love to use, and this is kind of what starts getting it so it can be more in that universal use of either cavern, ooh, ugh, big glob on top, cavern, forest, so on and so forth. Alright, and let me just quickly get that sponge. Again, you don't want to load up too much paint in the sponge, just so it's not blurring your colors on you. I literally just keep a little cup of water away from my drinking cup of water, of course, to rinse it off, and then I'll just wring it out. Ooh, let me figure that before the cat gets it. Just wring it out in a paper towel. That's all you have to do with it. And it's not fully clean, but you can see it's not, you know, covered in brown anymore. Alright, so I'm going to dip into doing olive green. Same go around. I'm going to work on getting the back done. And yes, there are times I'm going to pull slightly out of frame just so I can see what I'm doing. Because sometimes it does not work out so well to keep it in frame and still have this chugging along. The nice thing is as you start laying the colors on, You don't have to worry so much about covering every last nook and cranny. But these are essentially my mid-tone colors. So I use the dark wash as my base color, move up to a more mid-tone grouping, and then I shift up to the lightest grouping. That's sort of my approach to painting terrain pieces. And sometimes I'll even do a black wash in between the mid-tone groups and the final lighter groups. You know, you play around with it, you figure out what works out best for you. Well, that's my model. Yep, doing terrain, getting the couple of ramps painted up. We have a need for ramps in some of our terrain pieces, so I'm doing one, so I can go with a few different terrain groupings that we have, and then the ice one, which, yeah, that pretty much, it's ice. There is no way around that one. Woo! See, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, did I get that side? Alright, here we go. Pivot! Who knows that reference? Pivot! Yeah, the cosmetic ones, it's not as stark of a break-in pattern as natural sponges, which I personally find for scale of the material, I prefer that. But, you know, a sponge will also work. I'm just using these on purpose because, well, I like using them now, and also you get to see it in action as opposed to just watching that quick clip of a video recommending them. Thank you! I'm glad you enjoyed the Instagram account. I've been having fun using it for what we're doing with Dungeons & Dragons for the family campaign and what I've come up with. Friends, the couch! Yes! Anne wins with the pivot reference. That is exactly what it is. Military what's come... Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that one. That's a good point. But no, in a Friends episode, you have a couch being moved. Is it Rachel and Ross that are doing it? I'm trying to remember who's moving it. I like Friends, but I'm not that much of a fan in terms of I remember every last detail. But they're trying to get a couch up the stairs. And of course it's one of those stairs that have like a switchback to it. So here they are trying to get a couch up these stairs with that turn in it. And it's not going well. And I know it's Ross. He keeps shouting, "Pivot! Pivot!" Thinking that's going to get, I think it's Rachel turning the couch the right direction. Oh, vines for, yeah, Mike's saying if you use hot glue, you could make vines for it. Yeah, you could add, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things you could add to this stuff to give it a certain look one way or another. Chances are, if you want to try and use hot glue, definitely try and get a low temp glue gun because that does not melt as quickly, if really at all. I have yet to see my little handy dandy lower heat, that's the word, the lower heat one eat into our pieces. And it's that little yellow one that you'll see in the videos. Big Blue is the one that just, you know, eats things altogether. Okay, let's see what else. Ross and another one of the dudes. Okay, so Anne, I'm not the only one. Oh, Chandler Bing. Yeah, Chandler's good for those one-liners. Okay, so we're done with the olive green, and this is at the point where I'm going to shift up to my lighter tones. I'm not really going to bother doing a major dark wash in this simply because it does have that darker toning in there, and what I might do is cut back in just with a brush on the sides for the darker effect. So next up, moving into the lighter stuff, I am going to tap into medium brown, if this wants to play nicely. Or not. But this is the CraftSmart medium brown. Let me get this washed off. Oh, you know what? I need to change my water. Discuss amongst yourselves. Luckily the sink's right over here, so I can still talk to you. You just can't see me. Alright, this is better. Sometimes the water just gets too cloudy and then you're pulling old colors back in. Not fun. Alright, so who's going to figure out who's doing the scene of the pivot of the couch in Friends? Who's going to do the Googles? and get the answer. Because that's going to bug me until I get off doing this and then can check it for myself. Okay, so this guy's a little bit more liquidy than I usually like. Oh yeah, definitely, because the second you get that hot glue on, it melts everything. It also likes to melt through skin. Yeah, I've been playing with hot glue guns since I was like 8, I think. Wood burning tool. Yeah, I've been debating getting something along those lines. I've got a little something on order. I want to see how it works first. And then if it does what I think it's going to do, it's definitely going to start getting put to use. Okay, so now I'm going to go and start working with the medium brown. There we go. And what I start doing with the lighter colors is I don't press in as deeply on the edges, and I start to sweep a little bit, because as you can see what it starts to do, it starts highlighting. Yeah, the background music, if you go to the description of this video, I have it listed. It is a pair of brothers. Their name looks like Fletcher, but it's actually Fiechtcher, I think. Fiechter, I think is how you pronounce it. But it's Derek and Brandon, and they have a YouTube channel and an amazing variety, and I actually use them for our background music in our campaigns because of how much variety they have to offer us in terms of what it is we want to have playing in the back. Yeah, Ross yells pivot, but who's the one helping him move? That's the mystery. I think it's Rachel. I don't know why, but I'm thinking it's Rachel. Matt LeBlanc, right? I'm about to pick up my phone and look that up because that's going to start bugging me. It's Rachel. Okay, see? Ah, I vaguely remembered it. All right, so it's Rachel helping Ross move the couch. And Ross is shouting that lovely pivot. Mystery solved, hooray. And yeah, again, don't forget the back part here because that is going to be seen. But yeah, I like this music. I actually will just listen to it because I like it. It's good for when I just need some background stuff going on. Okay. Yeah, we thought about the whole magnetic paint factor. Problem is if you have other people come who don't have minis with the metallic on it, it doesn't act as it works. All right, Wylock, thanks for joining. Have a good night. Try and stay cool. Hopefully get back up home soon enough where the weather's actually pleasant right now from what my parents said, since they're also in that Maryland area. But yeah, the glue is basically, it's sort of the universal stop for whatever type of miniature you might be using, so it's a matter of someone comes over with their own miniature and there's no magnetic factor to it. It won't start sliding down. Ross, Chandler, and Rachel. Oh, so it was all of them moving the couch. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I obviously have not seen that episode in quite a while. All right, so I have, what did I just do? Medium brown. All right, so from medium brown, I'm going to shift over to Apple Barrel's Moss Green. Ta-da! And what I will do is after this point... Oh, okay, we'll have to look into that one then, Mike, if they make the magnetic circles. Put that into consideration. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to jump over to using Moss Green because it's obviously a lighter tone up from the olive green. And this is going to be the last layer of color I'm going to have on this just for a little bit because I do want this to dry for the last layer, which is going to be Suede. And the one thing I realized when I was taking pictures is I forgot to include Suede in the picture, so I made sure to put it into the supply list at the end clip for this live stream that I'll just process when it's time to sign off. But yeah, I want this to dry a little bit before the Suede goes on, otherwise I'm just gonna mire everything up. Okay. There we go. And you don't have to be too heavy-handed now that it's getting to this layering. But what I like about this is it works nicely with the cavern stuff because with the greens it almost looks like moss growing on the stone. With your forest terrain it looks more like it's translating into grassy zones. Okay, good. So we have the mystery solved. It is all three. Now we know who's in that clip of Pivot. The more you know. Cue the little star. Oops, forgot to dab off there. Let's see, this is coming together nicely. I don't want to cake on too much. Thank you very much. Yes, Roll for Damage is another new to the YouTube world. So if you haven't started following him, make sure you do that. He's got some neat things going up there. I like the, you did the ones with the hexagons, right? The hexagon tiles. Those look really good. All right, so I have all the major layers of paint on here that I want, which means I'm gonna let this guy dry for about 10 minutes or so while I shift over to doing the ice one. And then I'm gonna go back and just use that layer of Suede. Okay. Shift this one over. Wipe off my hands a little bit so I'm not bringing... Ooh, you know what? I might actually have to wash my hands. This could get to be problematic with these colors. Oh, no, here we go. That's not too bad. Oh, no, it is. All right, give me just a second. I just need to rinse my hands off so I'm not pulling blacks and browns into my ice. That's not the kind of ice you want to be caught on. I'm actually surprised the cats aren't jumping around. Right up until the very bitter end, they were racing behind my chair and Hemingway was almost on the table, so we would have had a Catzilla-esque entrance. Alright, this is better. Now I am going to switch over to a brand new sponge, simply because I don't want any of these colors to translate into my ice. So if you weren't here for it before, I am going to get this one wet first. So these are the cosmetic wedges. Yes, when you first get them nice and flat. So you just tear them apart a little bit to get some texture in there. And then that way, you don't have all these marks of even rectangles. And definitely just pull at it like this. Take the chunks out. There we go. So I like it to have texture so it's looking like that. See? Okay, back to the ice. That's right, I can't help it. I always wanted to like ice, ice, baby. Cliche much? Maybe. And I'm going to shift all these paints out of the way because I don't need them anymore. Alright, let me get the ones for this guy lined up so they're at hand. Now you're definitely going to want white. That's why I brought my big one of white. We stopped buying the little whites after going out of like all these. I'm tearing you apart, Jamie? I'm sorry. Or are you speaking for the wedge? Are you like the Lorax for the wedges? I speak for the wedges. Alright, so now with this being ice, the color play is obviously different than the forest terrain. Obviously, save the white towards the end. Next color I'm going to shift up to is, no, not that one, this one, is this blue Sapphire from DecoArt. Alright, so metallic line. I find with ice, anything that has a pearl or metallic finish gives you that sheen that ice naturally has. So I definitely gravitate towards those metallics and the pearls. You can even get the pearlizing top coat paint to really jazz it up if you want to. So I'm going to start with this dude. And the name of the game with the ice is you really don't want everything consistently covered. You want it to have streaks and openings and things so the colors kind of peek through. Because if you've ever seen pictures of glaciers or of huge chunks of ice, they're not all solid white. There's actually these different levels of hues that start happening. Alright, so it's this bright, gorgeous blue. Look at that. I love that color. So this is going to seem pretty intense at first. I will say that. Don't get scared. It will mute down once you start getting the other colors on. So let me just start getting this on the back first to show you what I mean. See, I'm not going to go super crazy and cover every last inch because I do want that gray and I do want that green to kind of come through. I'm going to put a little bit more towards the edges though, because that's where a lot of the blue will peek through on those glaciers. Alright, but you can see this scattering of color. This is kind of the look you want to end up with as you go through each layer. What's a god-awful movie? What did I miss? What movie is that? I don't know that movie. I'm also one of those people where I've seen movies and you throw out like a person's name who's been in the movie, like, I don't know. I'm horrible with like names of actors and actresses to movies. I don't know why. Okay. So again, as you can see, it's not fully covered up. You want it to have that spread out color going on there. Let me just turn something off here. There we go. A gentle finesse is what you want with this. What's that? Make it a happy little plank of ice. Okay, there we go. Let's make sure I get everything painted up on the sides before I move to the top. Okay. Ta-da! Now, notice I have not at all put anything in these notches, and I honestly don't intend to until I get to a certain color. Reason being, I want this green to show through because it's kind of hard to pick up here, but you can see there's different tones of green now happening from the melting process. Just one coat of pearlized paint actually makes that look like the inside of an ice glacier, so I leave them alone. If you get like a little bit in there, it's not that big of a deal. But I just find it benefits more from having it exposed and then just giving it a little treatment at the very end. Alright, so here we go. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay. Now the other thing I will do as I start building on the colors with ice, this is where you take the cosmetic wedge because it's wet and you pull out the paint. Some of it is still a little damp, which you want because that starts getting a blending action going. Get back over here. This doesn't want to do its job today. And I don't do it with the gray because I don't want the gray to get too streaky in that sense because it does need a little bit more coverage, but this starts to pull it so it blends more. More Bob Ross quotes, please. Oh God, I haven't watched him in ages. I grew up watching him in the summertime at my grandfather's house. He had the happy little trees. What did he call clouds again? Cheerful little cloud or something? I don't quite remember. And that's another one of my quirks. I tend to like flip through accents just for fun. That is a residual quirk of mine left over from teaching high school kids. I found that if you suddenly break into a different accent, they'll start paying attention to you after 10 minutes again. So yeah. Every so often a different accent will come out. However, I will say the southern one is kind of a true one because I did live in Texas for a little bit. And even though we're in New Jersey, I don't have the Jersey accents. Though I did joke that when I went out to meet David's parents, I would, you know, meet them and talk like this. It's a pleasure to meet you. David told me so much about you. I'd kill for a cup of coffee right now. But yeah, no, that's not my real voice. Don't worry. Okay, so we got the blue on, and I did that streaking thing. And as you can see, the streaking also helps bring out, look at those lovelies, those cracks in the streaks. Oh, that's it. There are no mistakes, just happy accidents. I believe in that too. For the most part. Okay, so now I'm going to shift over to doing, now this one is not a metallic, but it's a lighter gray, and it's going to kind of help give me some darker shadows in here. So it's the granite gray as opposed to the graphite gray. So this is Apple Barrel's granite gray, not CraftSmart's graphite gray. All these fun different grays to make it interesting. All right, as I use these up, let me shift these out of the way so I have more room over here. So classy. Does that work for you? I used to do that Fran Drescher laugh pretty well, and we'd watch The Nanny all the time. But yeah, I'm not going to do that one right now. Since I haven't done it in ages, I don't want to hurt any ears. But Mr. Sheffield, yeah. And I gotta say, most people from New Jersey really don't even sound like that. So I don't quite get why that's fallen into our laps, but yeah, so be it. All right, now this is where magic starts to happen when you start putting on the granite, right? Yeah, granite gray. And at this phase, I will dab on and then pull, because that gives you more of a blend, but it still allows the other colors to show through. See? Get that back before I forget. It's funny having this extra element of exposure. It's easy to forget about it. There we go. Ooh, that's a pretty. So you kind of go between sponging and pulling. And you start getting that effect going on where it blends more into each other. All right, so it looks like Anne needs to get going. Bye, Anne. Thank you for joining. Have a fun trip. Say hi to Ty for me. Now David has said that we're going to have some sort of ice scene coming up in our campaign. As for what, I'm not exactly sure, since at the moment we are in the jungle, where there are lots of dinosaurs and zombies and all that good stuff. Yeah, you can watch the video for the end results, right, Anne? But seriously, safe travels, have fun, enjoy your weekend. You know where to find me. Alright, let's get this other side going. But again, it's just the blot on and pull. And you can see you don't get so much of the sponge look as you get this blending in of each other with the colors, which gives it more of that icy look. But like I said before, the granite is not a metallic, but you're still getting that sheen thanks to the sapphire. What edition do I play? That's a very good question, Jamie. We actually play homebrew based off of third edition. However, I am working on getting David the latest and greatest. Well, 5, I should say. He's got birthday and Christmas coming up, so figured those are great fodder for gifts. But he writes our campaign because we play with our 2 boys who are both younger, so we need to keep it in that PG level. And he's actually written some pretty cool things in our campaign, and it's just been a lot of fun seeing how it unfolds. Pardon me while I get some paint off my hands. So yeah, that's what we play. So actually I have yet to play a tried and true an adult game, believe it or not. So David and I are going to try and do a get-together game with some friends of ours, so I can actually get a taste of what it's like to do Dungeons and Dragons, but not have it stay so little kid friendly. And he's written up this one-shot deal that's supposed to be extremely gruesome, but very cool, and that's something I'd love to see pan out too. So 5th edition is awesome. Good to know. I hope it is. We're excited to give it a try. Okay, so here it is with the Graphite, with the Sapphire Metallic, the other gray. What other gray was that one? That was the... I think it was just dark gray. And now what I'm going to shift over to is working up to... Now I'm going to say the white pearl. Oh, here we go. The white. Duh. Shifting over to white now. Because obviously this is going to be snow covered and all that good stuff. Alright, so got some white on my plate. In this case, I don't need to worry so much about the brush, or not the brush, but the sponge getting cleared off. Now, with this, you don't want to cover everything completely. Isn't as, what do you mean by crunchy? It isn't as crunchy as 3rd. 5th isn't as crunchy as 3rd. What does that mean in your interpretation? Crunchy. Because see, in my world, crunchy means like, you know, something I'm sure entirely different than what you're thinking. Alright, I'm going to do the same technique, putting on the white, dab it on, streak it down to give it more of that sheet of ice look. And actually it helps to pull this in different directions. See? Icy. Alright, I'm doing something on purpose here so you can see what I mean, how this will start turning into a dry brush technique for you when you use this sponge. So let me see if I can get the camera to pick this up for you. Might be a little tricky. Here we go. Alright, so you see down here on this edge, this is all starting from just putting that white on, and what I find is that this is going to highlight edges for me as I go through with the white. It's going to start picking up more of these raised ridges and everything. Less complicated mechanics. Okay, that's actually good, because sometimes it gets a little bit muddled and heavy. Yeah, I get what you mean now by crunchy. But yeah, this is why I've kind of converted over to using these cosmetic wedges as opposed to natural sponges. Just for my personal techniques and preferences, it works a lot better with the type of effect I want to get in the long run. Alright, so I'm going to get some white on the top here. And right now I'm trying to work mostly on the flatter surface because I want to show you the highlighting technique I'm going to start doing on the sides as well. So this is kind of a fun little twofer for you guys. You get to see the one terrain technique and now this ice terrain technique that I've been working on and doing. And then if for some reason you don't want to have like these cracks in here, you can always fill those in ahead of time with hot glue if you want. But I like the cracks because of the ice factor in here. It's going to add a little bit of the element of making it look unstable, even though it's really not. It's quite sturdy. Thank you very much. Okay, so I really do try to make sure I don't have too many huge patches of white, but it's kind of pulling through and everything like that now. Okay, so here's what I'm going to show you along here is this dry brushing thing. What you're going to switch over to is, yoink, let me put that back. I start using this end of the wedge, so forewarning, your hands will get dirty if you're switching between the two. Now, just put a little bit on. You don't have to super soak or saturate it. And you're going to take this and run it at an angle to the sides, just like you would with a dry brush. Don't press down, keep it light, and you just sweep over really quick. And in one fell swoop, you start getting the same highlighting detail you get with your brush. But what I find is this almost captures more of those details than if you're just cutting through with the brush. But look at that. That's all it took. And this is why I love this thing. All right, have fun with bedtime. Thanks for joining Roll for Damage. Good seeing you here. I don't know if I'll be done by the time you're done. Depends on how nicely your kids go to bed. But maybe you can come back and catch the last little bits. So yeah, this is my absolute love and adoration of the wedge because of how quickly it'll start pulling in the highlighting for you. And then that way you're not having to wait for other things to dry and so on and so forth. It makes for a much faster technique when you're doing terrain, I will say that. Trick here again is keep your hand light and keep it at a good angle. Which, let me see if I can get this to focus a little bit better for you. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. So you can see it's pulled out those ridges. Let me get the other side done as well. Uh-oh. There it is. Connection issue. And when I say light, I mean super duper light. You don't want to push down too hard, because then it's going to start filling in deeper, and that's not what you want it to do. And I do put a little bit more on this part. NyQuil, duct tape, and a big rock always helps your kids go to sleep. Why? Because they knock you out with all that and then tie you up and have a grand old night without you? I gotta say, our kids were not easy babies by any means. It took forever to get them to go to sleep. However, now it is go to bed, and for the most part, they go to bed, which is kind of nice. It's also why I was able to start the live stream at 8:30 and not have to worry about, is anyone still up? All right, but see, you can see how this just gave me all of that highlighting action that I want to get out of this. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I like using this cosmetic wedge, because it saves me some time. All right, what I am going to do is just a little bit, because there's some neat texture in here, I am going to switch over to the very narrow edge here, right there, and just kind of sweep it in a little bit. I don't want to cover all of it, but I do want to just get a little bit of the suggestion of snow having gotten in there. Let's see if that shows up for you. So you can still see the green in there, but now it's got a little bit of the snowiness added onto it. Let's see up here. Just very gently, not too much. You don't want to lose all the green. But if they're like in an icy environment, yeah, some snow's going to sneak down there. See what I mean with that one? See? It's not completely covered, but you definitely get the suggestion of snow. Pretty ice. You like the ice? Ice is nice. All right, so that's getting close to using up the white. I just got to get down to the base here. And don't forget, it's the dab it on and pull it up in different directions. And if there are spots you want it to be just a little bit more snowy, then yeah, go back and, like I'm doing right now, go back and put some more white in there on the top. But you can see you're now getting those different tones pulled in and through here. And you can also go back once it's pulled through and dried and do another layer with the, what's the word I'm looking for? With the white. And that should do it. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different ways you can make this how you want your ice to look. I tend to go more for this technique, obviously. But if you wanted to do a blue wash mic, by all means, you could definitely do that. I am going to stick with doing this one because I'm also going to add in some pearlizing now. Ice and fire terrain are your favorites. I haven't done anything really with fire yet. I am looking forward to it. We just haven't had a need for anything lava-based but it definitely would be cool. You know, I'm just gonna quickly go back and just put in a little bit more white over here while I have it out. Yeah, that's better. That's more to my liking. There we go. And really it's just feeling it out to get things to where you would like them to look. I mean, obviously everyone has different tastes and preferences as to how they want things to be in the long run. So this becomes a matter of take of this what you will and put it to use later on if you so choose. How's that for a plug? Alright, let me clean my sponge off. It's getting very white and muddied now, which I know sounds like a contradiction, but it's not blending as well as I want it to at this point. Okay, so now we are at the point where I'm going to go in. Oh, the time warp contest has lava. That's cool. I'll take a look at what other people are doing. I'm honestly not sure how much I'll be able to do with that type of thing because I'm cresting into my busy season and my hands are going to be busy with a hook and a yarn for, God, a few months, probably into January is usually the trend. Okay, so now that I have that on, I'm going to flip over to using CraftSmart's White Pearl. It's another metallic and it's a great metallic. Not great, but great. And I find this kind of gives it that pop of sheen, like ice. So it's a really fun one to work with. And it doesn't go on as thick of a coat, which is nice. So you don't have to worry about covering up things as much. But it's what gives that nice icy glisten to the piece. Alright, got the top edge. And again, if I'm pulling things out of frame, it's so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Alright, see if they'll pick it up. See that? As you move it in the light, you get that glistening glow, which looks really cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely keep a lookout for the time warp stuff and the lava pieces. That'll be fun to see what people do. I always love seeing the creativity and the ideas other people come up with, because good grief, there's so many options out there. In a good way. Alright. But like I said before, this paint is actually pretty darn sheer. So I find this acts as sort of a unifier with the colors, and it pulls things together. But for some reason, it definitely goes a lot faster than other paints. Good, I'm glad the camera's picking it up. I think I have the lighting mostly figured out. I might change to a slightly warmer bulb, I'm discovering, as the sun starts setting and the light isn't as abundant in the house. But I took my clamp lamps and used the natural light bulbs that we have that I'll use for taking pictures of my crochet stuff. And I actually bought a white umbrella so I could hang it from the chandelier. And that way it diffuses things, because before, if I used those clamp lights and hung them from the chandelier above my head right now and tried to show you what was going on, my skin is so fair I would start to flare out the camera. So I think I'm onto something now, but I think I might just slightly alter maybe just one of the bulbs. Yeah, it's a subtle look, but it definitely, and even in like, you know, up close and personal real life, it looks like an icy feature, which is really cool. Isn't that always the case? Camera doesn't pick up every last detail. You gotta see it in person, or at least try it out so you can make it in person, right? Okay, we're moving along here. Okay, so I have everything. Oh, I forgot the back. See? Good thing I checked. Just flip this over carefully. There we go. Let me get the back before I forget. After all that saying, don't forget the back. I forgot the back. Oh, there we go. See, look at that. Gorgeous. I love it. But I don't do the dab and pull streak technique like I did with the other white, because I do want this to not be completely covered in the sheer quality of this paint. I want there to be some dark parts to it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here we have it mostly done, and I did lose a couple washers this evening. That's why it's kind of on the seesaw mode. So I'll glue those back in once I'm done painting and it's dry. What am I doing here? All right, now I'm going to go back to my paintbrush, and what I want to do is just wet it down a little bit. I'm going to take the same pearl, metallic pearl, right? White pearl, that's what it is. The white pearl and the metallic paint. And I'm going to go into this green now, and that is going to get that painted onto it, because then you get that sheen in that section. It just looks so cool that way. So it doesn't mute out the green completely, but it starts giving it more of an icy look to it. Just dab it in. Let's see if that'll pick it up for you. There you go. And then it has that gloss. Ta-da! But it's really great. This paint, I definitely would say, if you're going to do a lot with ice, get it. It has so many great capabilities. Yes, it's always better in person. I agree, Jamie. It's neat to see stuff online, and half the time I sit there thinking, oh my god, imagine what it looks like in real life. And then in this case, you want to get that paint into the nooks and crannies, so again, that exposed green won't be so exposed now, but it also takes on the glisten of the metallic paint. So it looks like that melted bit of ice in there. See? Shinies. Hi, Mike. Glad you could join us. All right, let me get up here. Now there is another feature to this I'm going to do, but I'm actually going to use it on that piece that I first showed you in here, because this is not going to be dry in time to do it. But it's a fun little detail I like to add in to our what? Hello? Oh, David got home. There's a strange man entering the house. Wouldn't that be an interesting scenario? Sorry guys, gotta go. Someone's breaking in. How was it? Good. Good. All right, so now we have the white pearl metallic on here. And the last thing I like to add for some shine factor, and this is fun. I don't go too crazy with it, but it's still fun. It also sticks to itself like unbelievably. It is glitter paint. So this is DecoArt. It's called Twinkles, and I get the multi-twinkles, so it has a variety of colors in there. Of course, now that I've shaken everything to the bottom, guess what? It doesn't want to come out. There we go. And it's very, very, very thick. See? That sucker's not going anywhere. Again, where's my sponge? What'd I do with the sponge? There it is. All right, so go back with the sponge. I am going to wet it down a little bit, just to get some of those excess paints out. Looks like I have blue milk over here now. Yum. I literally just put it into a paper towel and squeeze it out, if you want to know what I'm doing over here. Okay, so pick up the glitter paint, and then you don't want to cover the whole thing. I just kind of go around here and there with it, so that every so often you just get this fun sparkle. You can see it right through here. But yeah, you don't cover your entire surface with it. This is just to kind of give it a magical glistening. And it makes it eye-catching. Plus with the kids, if it sparkles, they're going to want to look at it. Never drink blue milk. Ah, raise your hands if you've either dipped your paintbrush in your choice of drink or picked up what you thought was your choice of drink and it was paint water. I know I'm not the only one who has made that lovely little accident. Yes, this is where the cool kids are tonight, Mike. Glad you could make it. Okay, so I'm almost done. And like I said, I don't go too crazy with it. It's just, you want to add the hint of the glitter, which I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. Let's see here. Does it pick it up too much? Let's try the top. It might be a little bit easier. There we go. So you can see there's just that little bit of sparkle that's going to start happening. Let me do the above. That might be a little better. So it has a sheen and it has a sparkle. There we go. So icy and sparkly. Now it's looking like a slab of ice. There we go. Yeah. Almost drank white paint a few times. Whoops. Oh, we all need glitter. You know the only time where we don't need glitter is when someone sends you a card and there's glitter in it. Oh my god, that drives me nuts. Because inevitably I'm opening that up over like the carpeted floor without expecting there to be anything in there, and out comes all this glitter, and now comes the vacuum. Well, Mike, aren't you the lucky one? You're missing out. You haven't drunk your paint water, you're missing out. As I take a sip of my own water. Alright, so I am going to let this guy dry, and he's going to need an overnight dry before I move on to the next step. But to show you what the last step would be, because I'm not going to keep you guys hostage for the whole evening, that would not be fair, pulling out this guy, okay? So I'm going to take this guy, and as you can see, it has all those other paints that I did on the other one. But what I like to do is I'm going to take some white sand that I found at Dollar Tree. It's in the floral section. And what I like to do is put it on just with some Elmer's glue, which I know I have in the box. And it kind of gives you an effect of drifted snow. Hang on. Now I gotta actually stand up. There it is. Okay. So here it is, this massive bag. So I got all this for $1. And yes, it's sand before you start up rumors. So this sand, it's very fine. I want to get a little pinch out and put it in my hand so you can see. It's a very fine sand. It's a fine sand. And it has a little bit of a glisten to it. Oh, come on. Please play nice. You can hear it falling. But it almost looks like sugar or salt. But what I do is I will go in and around like these features, I'm going to put some glue. Try it. It will be fun. You can be like one of us, Mike. Ha ha ha. So yeah, I just do like a free form blob of the glue. Let's see if I need it to pick up with the shine. Not so much. You'll see this once I get the sand on. So you take the glue, figure out where you want this to go. Say hello to my little friend. And I'm going to put a little bit over here. So get your glue down on all the spots you want to treat to get this white sand. And you can also put it like, you know, it doesn't have to be around these spots where you've kind of used the acetone to eat out little gaps and holes into the foam with it. But when you go to do this, have a box ready so that you can sprinkle the excess sand into that. Now I remember why I brought the box up. It's not just to hold stuff. Alright, here we go. Let me move my paint water because I'm pretty much done with that too. Alright. So, I'm going to take my box and have it to the side because that's where I'll shake things in. Close off your glue so you don't lose the whole thing. Now what I'm going to do is just take some of that sand literally take it in pinches and sprinkle it over where you've put the glue. And this is just one of those fun features that it starts looking like the icy sleet type of drift snow. And once it's on, it kind of gives it like another layer of texture, which I love. You know, because everyone thinks ice is always so perfectly smooth, but there's actually ridges and nooks and crannies and all that different stuff to it. I feel like that salt guy. See, I was just saying, it's like that guy who like sprinkles the salt all crazy. Mike, you and I were thinking of the same thing. No, this is just, you don't go too crazy, just get the spots that you covered. I'm not gonna go like bam and whatever, because then I have to clean up the mess. Why would I do that to myself? And I'm the one having to pull out the broom and the vacuum and ever so much fun. And my luck, the cats are gonna think it's something they can eat, so I'd have to do it right away. Okay, so I have the sand on. Let me close up the bag before I make a mess. Speaking of making a mess. All right, and then just take your box, and into your box just nudge off that excess, and you're gonna have these little piles of glue, like that, with the sand, so you have this new element of texture added on to your terrain. Now I will say, make sure you let this dry completely, and once it's completely dry, go back with the white glue, Elmer's Glue, off-brand, whatever it is you want to do, and paint over that sand so it doesn't start to, you know, falling apart on you and falling away from the piece of terrain. But this is one of those little elements I like to add on to it just to kind of give it more visual interest. And like I said, it starts looking like drifts of snow. Let me get a drink. I'm parched. But you can also build up on this by putting on another layer of glue and another layer of sand if you so choose. But that is how I give it a little bit of that extra snow detail. So this is pretty much how I do my ice terrain to get it all pulled together and done. Okay, you can see it has that glisten, you've got the sparkling happening, you've got this, the hint to the snow around here with that white sand. Again, Dollar Tree, floral section. Kind of like, well, it depends on which Dollar Tree you go to, I guess, but mine has it where the candles and the flower stuff is all together. But that's where I found that white sand. Okay, and let this dry, coat over with Elmer's Glue when that's dry, and that will take care of it from falling apart on you. But that's essentially my ice terrain technique. So if you find something to it that you want to keep going with that, pardon my reach, then by all means, please feel free to give it a go. All right, let's go back to my friend General Terrain. And I'm going to show you that. Oh God, you can hear the sand falling out of my fingernails. Hello. All right, so back to this piece. It's mostly dry now. See, I can touch it and I'm not coming away with browns and greens on my hand. So that last color we're going to need is, here it is, Suede. Which again, I'm going to have a little clip at the end of this once everything's done with the live stream tonight, and it's going to have pictures of all the paints I used, and the description has a list of all the supplies I used for this stuff, and I did try and break it down as best I could for one type over the other. Yeah, it's amazing how that white sand just kind of changed the texture of the ice, and it looks like snow. It's, you know, simple, easy, and one of those, neat discovery. Alright, so I'm going to go in with a suede, and I'm going to do basically a dry brush, but using my cosmetic sponge, because I like the effect and what happens with it a lot. Just give this a little extra ring out, because it's a little too wet. Alright, so I'm going to use, again, it's going to be this part of the sponge, and no, I don't have it texturized, because I don't need it to be texturized for it. Oh, and look, I have a friend, hold on. This is my life. I cannot get things done without a little gray shadow. Now, surprisingly, that is not Hemingway. That is cotton. We have two of these monsters on our hands. All right, so can you, like, not, please? And just shift them over. Ah! All right, so taking that suede, see See it right there. I'm going to start with my edges first. Now, to be safe, I will kind of do a little test to make sure it's not too much. Same thing as I did with the ice, with the white. You want to have it at a nice, about 45-degree angle there and about, very light touch, and you just do a sweeping motion over it. And obviously, with this having darker colors, that pops out right away. Ta-da! And I just use this to highlight the different areas. You don't want to go too crazy and get too heavy-handed with it, but ta-da! Look at that. I can dry brush and talk at the same time. I'm gonna make more rectangles. No, I'm not gonna make more rectangles, Mike. Actually, this is more like a crescent shape, this one. I don't think I could do rectangles with the top part if I wanted to. And that odd clunking sound was Hemingway playing with his solo cup. That is how low maintenance my cats are. Give them a solo cup and they have a blast. But now you can see, this is oh, Hemingway! Hold on, he unplugged my lights. Let me fix this. You stinker. No, not a game. Alright. So you can see that just brings out the details. Ta-da! Rectangles. Maybe I'll do a marble floor and we'll do rectangular tiles. Okay? That'll get you your rectangles, Mike. How's that sound? Alright, same thing this side. Take that suede on the top of the cosmetic sponge. Get your angle going and pull. And in this case, less on the sponge really is more. You don't want to overload it. Otherwise, you're not going to like what it does. It's just kind of going to glop on you. Here we go. Let's see. Pulling it through. Ta-da! It's so fast. I am going to do a little bit up top here, just to highlight that edge as well. There we go. Alright, and then I am going to do this across the top just to kind of pull out more of that textured detail of when I use that wire brush. And again, lightly. And I do kind of like to have just a little bit of streaks happening because then it sort of looks like, you know, say this were to be something in a cave. Just the weathering thing that can happen with minerals coming out of the rock, so on and so forth. And if you ever want to mute it down a little bit, just take the other end of your sponge, make sure it's wet, then just after you've done it you can pull on it and it breaks down the intensity of the streaking. You want to come and see? David's peeking around the corner. Woo! But that's pretty much the last and final detail touch for this guy as well. But it brings out all that texture for you without having to go crazy. If you want to, you could always go through and put on a couple washes if you wanted, by all means, depending on what it is you're doing with this. I tend to keep it more at this level because, again, I want it to fit with a couple other different types of terrain that we have. And if I go in with a dark wash or a black wash, it's going to kind of take it down to more of a cavern look. But this is my general terrain ramp. So see, yes, now you have to go and get makeup sponges, Mike. Put on those sunglasses, do the walk of shame down the makeup aisle where they keep the brushes and the cotton balls and the Q-tips. And pictures or it didn't happen. You know, that's a good question in terms of grids or no grids. And we kind of blend the two. Sometimes we have things that have, like especially with the dungeon tiles, those have grids. Our more open terrain pieces are gridless. And we have different ways of doing it. You're gonna have your wife go with you, Mike? Oh, we got both mics now saying it. That's great. So that is, ta-da! That's how I've been using this little cosmetic wedge and painting up our terrain pieces. And I will say this little sucker has cut my painting time easily in half because of how nicely it blends everything together and how I can go through and just do quick highlights along things without having to pull out yet another paintbrush and go through and making sure I'm dabbing, so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm kind of plugging those and liking those a lot. But that is, I think that's pretty much it. I got the sand, we got this going on, we got the suede on here. All right, let me move you up. Let me move you up so I can talk to you. You need a nice shot of my paint covered hands. All right, there we go. So thank you so much for coming by tonight and taking a look at things. If you come back and you watch it later because you missed a couple points, I will always be happy to answer any questions you might have. Pop them down in the questions. Let's see here. Oh, there's a couple more comments happening. Yeah, I draw the line at certain products that women need about once a month. Don't worry, that's not going to come into play ever. Promise. But, you know, I might make you have to go down to the nail polish section and get some decals and whatnot. Come on. You branch out, you find new means of crafting. So anyways, again, this was fun to do, and I'm glad I got to do a live stream with you guys to do this because it's getting busy for me, and this is kind of a nice way to get it out there and on the channel, and you can see it happening. I'll let my putting it off because I need to crochet something. And what I will do is, once we do the final goodbyes, I'm going to put a little video at the end of this so people can see photos of the types of paints I used, as well as the supplies I had on hand tonight. And I think that's everything. I think we're good. So being that it's a live stream, I don't have bloopers outside of Cotton trying to take over my chair and Hemingway unplugging the lights, so hopefully that counts. Well, you can always come back, roll for damage, and check it out because I'm going to make sure this does end up on the channel. Of course, it's usually like half an hour usually for it to process. But again, I enjoyed this. I do have a few more things in the works, and I'll be getting a couple things up over the next couple weeks. I have a pretty cool one that I'm right now working on the editing and producing part of the video because the craft itself is pretty much done. It's going to be fun, and I was targeting to have it come out in the beginning of October, so we're doing well with that one. But that's pretty much it for now. It is, oh, it's almost my bedtime too, so I'm going to get going. Have fun. Bye. See you later. And stay tuned for the end video.